Hi students, welcome to Easy Elimu Learning Simplified. My name is Mbithe, and in today's session, we are going to learn about affirmative sentences and negative sentences. We are going to first of all define what affirmative is, what negative is. Then we are going to construct sentences that are in the affirmative, sentences that are in the negative, as well as convert sentences from negative to affirmative and from affirmative to negative. So before we go into affirmative sentences and negative sentences, let us do a small recap and remind ourselves what is a sentence. If I asked you right now, what is a sentence? What would you say? A sentence is a group of words that make complete sense. And one feature of a sentence is that a sentence always starts with a capital letter and ends with either a full stop, a question mark, or an exclamation mark. For example, I am going to school. That is a sentence. You start with a capital letter, you end with a full stop. Where are you going? That is a question. So you start with a capital letter and then end with a question mark because it is a question. So with that understanding of what a sentence is, let us now go into affirmative sentences. And just from the word affirm, you can tell that affirmative sentences are sentences that relay or give information in the positive. So if you want, you can call them positive sentences. For example, if I say, I won the award, that is a positive sentence. You're giving positive information. I won the award. I successfully finished my Form 4. That is an affirmative sentence or a sentence in the affirmative. So you can try and construct as many sentences as you can in the affirmative. There are 3 examples there. I have seen my cousins. The students work hard. My parents come home early. All these sentences are relaying positive information. They're giving information in the positive. So these are just a few examples of affirmative sentences. So what are negative sentences? Just from the word negative, what is a negative sentence? This is a sentence that now, unlike it is the opposite of the affirmative sentences. We have said that the affirmative sentence is a sentence that gives positive information. So the negative is a sentence that does not give. It is literally the opposite of what the affirmative sentence gives. And we use the word not to show the negation. We incorporate the word not for us to show negation. So let us look at a few examples in the next slide. So we are going to use the same sentences that we used when we were discussing the affirmative sentences. We are now going to convert them to negative sentences. So the first one was, I have seen my cousins. That is in the affirmative. So in the negative, it is, I have not seen my cousins. So the word not there has been used to show that it is now a negative sentence. It has been used to show negation. The students do not work hard. So the affirmative was, the students work hard. In this sentence, if you notice, we have now introduced 2 words, do and not, and we are going to discuss about do in the next slide. My parents do not come home early. In this sentence, we have also introduced do and we have introduced not to show negation. You can't say my parents not come home early, and we are going to see why and see the significance of the word do when it comes to negative sentences. So some sentences will require you to introduce the word do and not for you to form negation. So the word do or the forms of do, like did. I see my cousins. I do not see my cousins. You can't say I not see my cousins. That is not correct. So you have to introduce the word do for that sentence to make grammatical sense. In the past tense, I saw my cousins. The negative is I did not see my cousins. So take note that there's some sentences, if you're converting from the affirmative to the negative, that you have to incorporate the word do or the forms of do. So another interesting feature or characteristic of negative sentences is that we can make them shorter by combining the main verb or the auxiliary verb with the word not. Remember, do is an auxiliary verb. So for example, I do not see my cousins. I do not see my cousins. So when you combine do and not, it becomes I don't see my cousins. Or the second one, I did not see my cousins. So you combine did and not to form didn't. So I didn't see my cousins. Another example would be I have not seen my cousins. I have not seen my cousins. You can combine the auxiliary have with not to form haven't. So I haven't seen my cousins. Or another example, I cannot see my book. I cannot see my book. You can say I can't see my book. So that is very important to note. And remember now, when you combine them, remember to use an apostrophe where it's supposed to be used. We learned about the different uses of apostrophes. So when you combine them, you'll realize that you omit some words and then put an apostrophe. So like do not, you will omit the O in not and put an apostrophe to form don't. So take note of that. So there are some words that can be used to show negation that apart from the word not. For example, I have an idea. You can say I don't have an idea, but you can say I have no idea. So no is a word that can be used to show negation. They took some from the bedroom. That is in the affirmative. And then they took none from the bedroom. None is a word that can be used to show negation. He was breathing well. He was barely breathing. Barely is also a word that can be used to show negation. So you don't have to use not all the time. You can use these other words like no, none, barely, hardly. So there are quite a number of words. You can attempt to construct sentences in the negative that do not have not. Use these other words and see if you're able to do that. So that's it for affirmative sentences and negative sentences. I hope you have understood and you're able to construct a sentence in the affirmative and convert it to the negative and vice versa. For further practice, you can have a look at the quiz. It's a two-part quiz. The first part, rewrite the following sentences in the affirmative. So these are sentences that are in the negative. So you are going to rewrite them now in the affirmative. And the second part, rewrite the following sentences in the negative. So those sentences are in the affirmative. You're going to rewrite them in the now in the negative. So I can do one, then you attempt to do the rest. So for example, in the first part, the last question of the first part, the old man can hardly write. The old man can hardly write. So remember, we have said that there are other words that can be used in the negative apart from not, and this is one of them, hardly. So if I rewrite that sentence to the affirmative, it becomes the old man can write. So in the affirmative, the old man can write. In the negative, the old man can hardly write, or the old man cannot write. So thank you for tuning in, and see you in the next session.